Welcome or welcome back, fiends, to another episode of the Horror Ghouls, where we haunt our way through horror films one bloody axe at a time. I'm T,
I'm Megan.
and tonight we're unlocking the doors of a real life legend, the infamous Winchester Mystery House, and diving into the 2018 film Winchester, directed by the Spierig brothers and starring the ever enchanting Helen Mirren. A mansion built without rhyme or reason, staircases that lead to nowhere, and a woman cursed by the blood money of a gun empire. Has she lost her mind? Or is she the only one who sees the truth? So, my friends, light a candle, say a prayer, and hold on to your axes, because this story is built on grief, ghosts, and guilt, and the foundation may be shakier than it seems.
Dun, dun, dun. Definitely thought
Right.
you were gonna say hold on to your asses. And I was like, wow, that's
I gotta hold on to your axes. So,
she got me already.
right?
Yeah.
Another Jurassic Park. I throw in Jurassic Park almost every damn episode. Um,
That's okay.
right. So yeah. So just so you know, guys, I'm trying a new format today. So if it's a little different, and you like it or you don't like it, please let me know in the comments down below. Um, because yeah, we're just trying to do something different and see if it works. And that is all.
That's
So,
it.
all right. Well, before we walk into the haunted halls of this film, let's talk about the house that inspired it because this story did not start in Hollywood. So, as I mentioned, this house is a real life legend. The Winchester Mystery House is a sprawling, mind bending mansion in San Jose, California, built and endlessly expanded by the real Sarah Winchester, the widow of the man behind the infamous Winchester rifle. And after losing both her husband and her infant daughter, she became convinced that she was haunted by the restless souls killed by her family's invention. So, to keep the spirits confused or appease them one way or the other, she began nonstop construction on her home. And for 38 years, the hammers never stopped, even through the night. And so, because of that, this house is a maze of over 160 rooms, staircases that lead to ceilings, doors that open into walls, and a design that feels a little bit like a seance more than a floor plan. And
Mm,
some say that she was suffering with grief, and others say that she was crazy. And a few believe that the spirits were actually real. But when Sarah died in 1922, the construction finally stopped. But the legend didn't. So, just months after her death, before her corpse even started to rot, the house was open to the public as a tourist attraction, and it began luring in ghost hunters, skeptics, thrill seekers. And so, even now, some people claim to hear footsteps in empty halls and whispers behind the walls. So, the spirits, it seems, may have made that place a home for themselves.
sure, sure.
Yeah. So I don't want to go there. Well, no,
I
I
do
do.
want to go
I
there.
would go there, but like we just talked that we off camera, we just talked about some footsteps and stuff and creaking in houses and the fact that people are like, yeah, I hear footsteps. That's like,
I don't want that in my house. You
but
know
you
what I
don't care if
mean?
it's in somebody else's house.
No, I mean, especially it's like a museum of sorts now, right? So it's like you go, you take a tour. They're probably bored of people, right? Those entities in there, they're like,
Yeah,
ah, there's people walking around my house again.
yeah.
Whatever, boring.
It's been 100 years, you know?
It has been a while, but
Yeah,
I'm so curious to see the actual house. Like I've seen pictures, but it's like you really want to like get in there and
right.
kind of pork around in all the nooks and crannies.
I would be afraid I'd get lost because I'm that type of person.
Yeah.
So I
Well,
need
also
somebody to put like a collar on me and like walk me like the children,
a
you put the
leash.
little,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah. But they don't. I also am pretty sure the whole house is not open. Like they only tour you through specific areas. So it's like I
Yeah.
would love the like behind the scenes, like the room's falling apart shit tour. Imagine if that's the name of the tour. That'd be a terrible
Rooms
tour
falling
name.
apart shit tour.
Bye, Megan. Welcome to the Winchester Mystery House. Yeah, like no, that would be the tour that I would give. But
That would be
yeah, no, I
funny.
think it would be cool to see.
Who knows? Maybe one day.
One day. Never know.
So let me tell you the players in this movie. I'm only telling you the top four because they are the ones that count. So we're going with Sarah Winchester, who is played by the wonderful Helen Mirren, as I said, and she is the grieving widow and heiress to the Winchester rifle fortune, haunted by guilt and ghosts. Then we have Dr. Eric Price, who is played by Jason Clarke, and he is a skeptical psychiatrist sent to evaluate Sarah's mental state. We then have Marion Marriott, and I'm not gonna say who. Well, she's Sarah Snook. That's who plays her. I wasn't gonna say it, but I am gonna say it. And that is Sarah's niece who lives with her in a mansion. And then we have Henry Marriott. I'm not saying his whole name, but his first name is Finn. I can't pronounce his last name, so I'm not gonna disrespect him like that.
Okay.
And that's Marion's young son who becomes possessed by a malevolent spirit. All right.
Happens to all of us,
It
right?
does. We all get possessed by a little malevolent spirit every once in a
Just
while,
like a regular day,
right?
you know? Yeah.
Walk in the park.
Hmm.
So I'm going to give you a little spoiler free section. So if you're curious whether this is worth your time without diving into the story, here's a little spoiler free tea. Visually, this film leans heavily on eerie ambiance and period accurate set design, with the mansion's twisted architecture becoming a character in its own right. The atmosphere is very thick with sorrows and secrets, and Helen Mirren's performance brings a sense of gravitas to what might otherwise be a fairly standard ghost story or ghost haunting story. And that said, this is not actually a jump a minute scare fest. There are jump scares, but it's not every minute. It is a slow burn gothic tale, more interested in grief and guilt than gore or gimmicks. So if you're a fan of classic haunted house vibes, historical fiction, or emotionally grounded horror, Winchester might strike the right chord. But if you're looking for something that's more fast paced and full of big twists, you might feel like you've wandered into a hallway that goes nowhere. So,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that sums it up pretty well.
yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the plot, shall we?
Let's
The
go.
the year is 1906. The film opens to the relentless clanging of hammers and the sound of constant construction. Through a window, we see Sarah Winchester, dressed in deep mourning black, moving silently through the house. She almost seems like a ghost herself, haunting the halls of her own mansion. From the very first moments, the tone is eerie, heavy, and unsettling. We shift to Sarah's niece, Marion, and her young son, Henry, asleep in one of the many rooms. Henry is jolted awake by the sound of distant singing, and a bell tolls outside the window. When Marion stirs, she finds Henry missing, only to discover him downstairs, standing eerily still with a sack over his head. She's it's the weirdest thing. It's like a
It's a
potato
thing that,
sack.
yeah, that I would be so freaked out if I saw any member of like my family just standing with a
With
like
a bag over her
a
head.
potato sack over their
Right.
head. I'd be like, what the F?
Also, I'd be like, how did you see to walk? Because he does walk with that bag on his head. So it doesn't look like it's something you can see through. So,
No, and like I know that's her child, but like also I'd be like, this seems like it's none of my business. Like,
right, I'd be like, I'm going back to bed.
good luck with that. Hope it works out for
Mm-hmm.
you. Yeah, it's a lot. But
I'm good.
it kind of, it's scary, but it also did kind of make me laugh.
Yeah. When I first saw him standing there, I bust out laughing. I said, oh shit. And I had seen this movie before, but I forgot. It's been eons since I've seen it.
Yeah,
So it, him standing there looked crazy.
yeah.
So she slowly approaches him, pulls the bag away, and sees his eyes blank and possessed. And in a chilling voice, he whispers, he's coming for us, just before the floorboards groan before them as if someone or something is already there.
Blech.
Yeah,
No thanks.
exactly. So, so Dr. Eric Price is a disgraced drug addicted physician who fancies the ladies of the night, reeling from personal trauma. Haunted figuratively and literally by the death of his wife, he's offered a suspiciously large sum of money to evaluate the mental state of Sarah, as she is the heiress to the Winchester repeating arms fortune, owning 51% of the company. Those in charge of the 49 are concerned that Sarah, who's been obsessively renovating her San Jose mansion for decades, may no longer be fit to control her portion of the business. So they definitely want to step in. I think there's a little bit more to that. Of course, they want the money, but
Sure.
yeah. So when Dr. Price arrives at the mansion, he's greeted by Marion, who immediately lays out the house rules. And it is clear that she knows he's not just a guest, and he's there to assess her Aunt Sarah's mental fitness. Marion leads him to the East Wing, where he'll be staying, and he's told he needs to stay there. That's the wing he belongs in.
Just like
um,
Beauty and the Beast.
right?
Yeah.
Like he's now Belle, locked in the tower,
Yeah.
locked in her wing. With nearly 100 rooms, the house is bizarre, full of staircases that lead to nowhere and doors that open into solid walls. And the layout feels intentionally disorienting. We then get our first real jolt, a jump scare, while Price is getting high and talking to himself and a photo of his dead wife in a mirror. And just as the tension starts to settle, in the same scene, the movie hits us with another jump scare. So back to back.
Yeah.
And that's right before Price is summoned to dinner. Now, as we wait for dinner, we learn that Marion and Henry are staying in the house because Henry's father's died. Though Henry doesn't seem particularly sad about that. He's like, oh well. And so when Sarah finally appears, dressed in her woman in the yard a garb, uh, it is a striking image. iCard. Anyway, so yeah, I learned. I think they're on this side.
Right
um,
here.
right?
Please click here. Yeah. Hmm.
So when Sarah finally appears, like I said, dressed in her woman yard guard, it's a striking image. Price, trying to show respect, compliments the Winchester rifle, and it does not go over well because Sarah makes it very clear that she's no fan of the weapon that built her fortune. Um, so that night, Price numbs himself with substances and drifts into a haze. He dreams of his wife Ruby, and there's a sense that he might be contemplating joining her. His grief seems very heavy, and drugs are clearly his crutch. And later, we get a tense moment when Price starts wandering into restricted parts of the house, and he gets thoroughly spooked. Serves him right. He heads
That's what
out,
he gets for that. Yeah.
right? He heads outside to catch his breath, only to spot Henry on the roof with the bag over his head, about to jump.
Ugh.
Price manages to run and catch him just in time, and when the bag is pulled off his head, Henry, now clearly possessed, stares at Price and says chillingly, I see. So creepy,
Well, also like if you're super sarcastic and kind of like a pessimist, you're like, yeah, I'm right here. Like, what do
right?
you, of course you see me, you idiot.
Look, he would
Like,
have said it. He would have whispered, I see you. And I said, I see you too. Like, the fuck.
he's like, oh, okay, shit.
Right?
Like, what about sorry for falling on you from the roof? Like, no,
Right? Sorry
no,
for almost breaking your back.
whatever.
Because it was a hard fall. Like he fell very hard on top of Price, but Price
Yeah,
caught him, which was good.
he's
Um,
ungrateful. He's a little ungrateful bastard. Anyway,
yeah. So at first, Price brushes everything he's experienced so far. He brushes it off and says it's grief-fueled eccentricity, just an elaborate coping mechanism for Sarah, and for him, it's the drugs. But the longer he stays in the house, especially after Henry's near-death incident, the heavier and more oppressive the atmosphere becomes. During his first meeting with Sarah, she immediately sees through him. She reads him like a book and then confiscates his drugs, telling him that if he's going to do his job, he needs clarity, not sedation. So after that, he's confined to his room, making it clear that Sarah is the one in control here. So, as Price spends more time in this house, his skepticism is starting to crack. The visions and hallucinations he believes he's experiencing become harder to explain away, especially when they're happening while he's awake. One night, he sneaks out of his room, climbs across the roof of the house, and goes into another window, and he witnesses Sarah in a trance-like state, surrounded by what probably is ghostly presences. We don't see them, but we just assume so. And she's using automatic writing to sketch out blueprints for the house, guided by something that's beyond herself. And at that point, he's hit with another jump scare. Serves him right.
him and us.
Right.
Ugh.
and and bolts back to his room, clearly rattled. And at their next session, Sarah casually calls him out for snooping because, of course, she knows. Why
Hmm.
was how would she not? She talks to the spirits. They see all.
Yeah, she's smart, and she's like,
Yeah.
she asks him, "Were you out of your room last night?" And she gives him the opportunity to lie, and he's like, I was. She said, "Thank you for being honest with me," because she already
Mhm.
knew. She
Yep.
knew. I love that.
Yep. And it's because of his honesty that she started to open up to him. So it worked. And what she tells him is that the house isn't just under constant construction for the sake of it. She believes that she's cursed, and the mansion is a prison she's building for spirits. Each room is crafted for a specific ghost, usually someone killed by a Winchester rifle. And the idea is to give them what they need: peace, acknowledgement, or even confinement or containment, excuse me. They seal the ghosts in their room with 13 nails, a divine number, she says, to protect the cycle of life and death. If she can connect with them through grief or compassion, they move on and the room is torn down and replaced. But if a spirit is still angry, the results can be deadly. So even after everything he's seen, Price still can't bring himself to fully believe Sarah. Not yet. He tries to gather more information, but everyone he questions shuts him down immediately because, I mean, I honestly thought they were like, bruh, this is our bread and butter. We work here all the time. You're not gonna come here and shut us down. I'm sorry. Uh,
Hmm.
so he was like, mm-mm. Like they were like, no, she's fine. Back off. Um, so that's on him.
Sure.
So at this point, he checks on Marion and her sleeping son, Henry, and they walk out the room. And during their conversation, she reveals that her late husband was a drunk. And while she doesn't believe in the so called Winchester curse, she deeply trusts her aunt. And Marion says that Sarah would do anything to protect them, and that includes sacrificing herself if needed. And it's a peaceful moment, but that peace does not last for very long because this is the part of the movie where things get a little bit more intense.
Hmm.
Henry, once again under possession, escapes the room, finds a Winchester rifle, and starts trying to kill Sarah, shooting at her. And she's very lucky because as he's getting ready to pop one into her head, the gun jams. And that barely saves her life. But Henry is relentless. He's like, oh no, he's going to beat her with the rifle. And he does that until Price bursts in the room and stops him. So at that point, without missing a beat, Sarah's like, mm-mm, seal Henry and Miriam's room up with 13 nails. We have to contain this spirit.
Well, also, not for nothing, I know that's her child, but like, sorry, that's your kid. You're getting locked up too. I immediately was like, how are they going to the bathroom? Like, how do they?
That's that's what was interesting to me because they sealed up the room with Marion, Henry, and Price in the room. And then they came through a side door that was open but had 13 hooks on it. And I'm like, are the 13 hooks supposed to stop the person from coming in? Because
Yeah.
later on, something does push those hooks off to get into the room. But um,
I assumed that that's what that they were there for, because there's always in this house, without getting into all the logistics of it, um, many ways in and out. It might be like a bookcase that's actually a door, or it might be a closet that has like a false back, or but like everything is like that. So I think there's always kind of like a fail-safe built in. And I'm talking about like real life because again, we know this in the movie, but it's actually 13 is the number she used all over the house.
right.
13 like window panes, 13 nails, 13 ghosts, the movie starring Matthew Lillard. I don't know, but I'm just saying that's true stuff. So it's interesting
Yeah.
at the same time.
I mean,
Yes.
this movie does give me a little bit of 13 Ghost vibes.
Well, that
Just a
ha
little bit.
the rooms to contain the spirits, just like the containment cells with all that like scriptiness
Hmm.
on it. That didn't you say they just made it, they didn't make it
It
up?
was just it was just a Latin
Or they
word repeated over and it was
yeah,
Latin
yeah,
phrase
yeah.
repeated over and over again on the wall.
They're like, it just says like Yo quiero Taco Bell, but in Latin, I
Pretty much.
guess. Okay.
It's like, they won't know the difference. And we
Meh.
didn't.
We really didn't know.
Right. So at this point, tensions are running really high, and Price suggests that Henry needs medical help, like a real hospital and not ghost rituals. Marion hesitates, clearly torn, but she seems to side with him. So Price heads off to make arrangements, but on his way, he runs into Ben, one of the house's butlers. And at first, Ben seems friendly. He's more talkative than he's been through this whole movie because we have seen him in this movie. He was in the
Right.
dinner scene, he was outside of his door at one point. Um, and he tells Price that he's seen spirits too, hinting to a shared understanding. But the conversation quickly takes a chilling turn. Ben drops the pretense and reveals his true nature. He's not a butler at all. He's a vengeful spirit with one goal. He wants every last Winchester dead. So at this point, I don't know how Price could not believe this because he clearly saw a ghost in front of him, but he's convinced that Ben is just an unhinged man, and he rushes to confront Sarah, saying, "One of the men in your services or whatever." And she calmly shows him a picture of a newspaper article from 20 years ago with Ben's picture on it. And Ben died long ago. And see, what's unsettling about this is the realization that Ben has been in the background of the film the whole entire time,
Yeah.
moving through scenes unnoticed, and Price has been interacting with him as if he was just another staff member. Because, like, there's a scene earlier at the dinner table. The whole thing is Sarah doesn't want people to drink and things like that before dinner. And Ben is standing next to some alcohol, and Price is looking at him like, "Give me the alcohol." And
Yeah.
Ben looks at him and they make eyes and they have this silent conversation,
Right.
but he doesn't move. And if you pay attention, he really doesn't move throughout that whole scene. So
I was
very
gonna say
interesting.
though, because it's like in hindsight, I'm thinking about like I guess I we really didn't see him interact with other people.
No,
But
nobody
it's like
talked to
at the
him.
time you don't notice because there are so many staff
It's
in
a
the
ton of
house.
staff.
There's so much that you wouldn't notice that. Like I certainly didn't. That one snuck up on me again. And I did see this before just like you and I forgot all about it. So
Me too. And what's crazy is when they sent Price to his room and said you can't leave your room because they confined him there. The head butler is there.
right.
I think his name is Alistair. I wrote it down later on, but I'll say it when it
Of
happens.
course it's Alistair.
I
Like
believe
the
it
for
is
the time
Alistair.
period and like the movie and of
Right.
course it is.
But Alistair is sitting outside the door, but at one point Price opens the door back up and Alistair is there, but Ben is behind Alistair, just
Right.
there. And it's like, why would they need two people standing there in front of his door? Like I was thinking, why are the both of them guarding his door? Like that's weird. I know he got out the window that time, but what are you
Yeah,
going to do from out here?
sure.
So that's kind of creepy. And I like that though. I think it was cool
Yeah.
because once you make that realization, like, I've seen him this whole movie, it's like,
You're
oh
right.
wow. So you're looking at a ghost the whole movie,
That's a good one.
right?
Yeah.
So, despite his own trauma and disbelief, Price can no longer deny that something's deeply wrong um, with this house and there's something crazy happening. So, as the haunting escalates, Sarah reveals that the spirit of Ben Block, a vengeful ghost of a Confederate soldier who blames the Winchester rifles for the death of his brothers during the Civil War, is using Henry as a vessel to exact his rage. She believes the only way to contain him is by recreating the room where he died. Ben, now in the real world, starts shaking the house, um, knocking down things off the walls, and he possesses Henry again. Now, I do have a little sidebar. The one thing about it, I'm gonna just set the scene for you. So Ben walks into the rifle place, the Winchester Rifle Company. He walks in and they had like a showing room of all the Winchester rifles that they've made. He walks in with the bag over his head, and people outside just look at him like, huh? They don't say anything about this man with a big rifle with a bag over his head walking into the rifle place.
They
He
see it
sh-
every day. Oh, okay.
Right. He
Yeah.
shoots up the whole place and then he basically kind of not barricades himself inside, but he sits inside the showing room in a chair. And that is where he gets killed by the police. And he's singing like Beautiful Dreamer or something because that's the theme throughout the song, throughout the movie, right?
Yeah.
So Sarah recreates the showing room, and this is like all around with all these rifles, which is crazy because clearly this man is trying to, this ghost is trying to kill you, but you have his room with all the rifles. So that's a little crazy. Um, so like I said, the broom is shaking very hard, and also I will add, in real life in 1906, at this time, there was an earthquake. So if you are a skeptic, this could explain away why the house shook and the house was destroyed to a certain extent. Um, but if you are a believer, Ben is a pretty powerful motherfucker. I mean,
Yeah.
so
I do want to add, I don't know if you have this later in your fun facts. I don't want to ruin it for you, but I'm going
what?
to say it anyway. Um, just 2 days ago, I think it was in the news that it was the anniversary of the earthquake that
Oh wow,
messed up the Winchester Mystery House and took it, everyone, from 7 stories to three.
damn.
So the earthquake reference in the movie is supposed to be that big earthquake because, like I said, it used to be 7 stories. They never rebuilt the top few. They kept it at three, so it's still three today. But I think it's really cool that they incorporated the historic earthquake. It was like the biggest one ever had in
Right.
that area, um, into this and tried to explain it through this kind of like lore. I thought that was a really cool touch.
It is. And
Mhm.
if you didn't know that, like you would just think that Ben was like all powerful, but at the end they do say that there was a earthquake in 1906, so it's like, oh,
Yeah.
all right, because the house, if you believe that Ben did this, Ben tore the house up. Like whole portions of this house were
Yep.
collapsed.
Mhm.
Um so that was wild.
And
But
hopefully it's not from shoddy workmanship from their
right.
exhaustive efforts to keep building this house.
Right. They're like all tired. They're like, oh God, it's midnight again.
They're
I'm
just setting it up with like toothpicks and shit at this point. They're like, we're just
yeah.
gonna have to tear it down anyway. Forget it. Who cares? Yeah.
Pretty much. So Ben is ripping the house apart, allegedly, collapsing whole wings. He kills John, Sarah's trusted right-hand man, who was my favorite character in the whole movie.
Damn it.
And the butler's name was Augustine, not not Alistair.
Still, of course,
Right.
there's Augustine and Alistair. It's like,
Yes.
sheesh. Maybe that was his middle name.
Right.
Augustine
Augustine Alistair
Alistair.
Butler, last
Alistair.
name.
Butler Esquire.
Right.
Yes.
So at this point, everyone is separated. And with each passing moment, Price begins to recognize the possibility that the spirits haunting the house are far more real and dangerous than he ever imagined. And as the house seems to bend and twist around them, Price is forced to confront his own past. He discovers that Sarah has recreated a room from his life, the garden room, where the spirit of his late wife, Ruby, appears. And through like a living flashback, we learn that Ruby died by suicide. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say that on YouTube, but we're not monetized yet, so don't get us. Um, sorry. She died by that, using a Winchester rifle after accidentally shooting Price when he tried to stop her. And he was clinically dead for 3 minutes and was brought back to life. And
Hmm.
that makes him one of the haunted as well, interestingly enough. So that's his tie to the house. And he carries that bullet with him as a reminder of the past. Ruby's spirit urges Price to release the guilt he's been carrying so that she can let go of hers. His unresolved grief has made him vulnerable to the same spiritual forces that Sarah has been trying to contain. So he does decide to let go. And once he does, he is led by many other spirits back to Sarah. And it's so interesting because they just all surround him. They point him in the right direction. They give him a hatchet. They give him nails, and his wife is the
Yep.
last one that's like, break this wall down and go up there. So it was kind of cool. I like that part. So at this point, Block's ghost grows stronger and more violent, feeding on the pain in the house. Sarah does try to cast him out, but Ben lashes out with full poltergeist fury with flying debris, and he does some psychological torment and chaos. And at the same time, his ghostly brothers, whom he freed along with every other spirit in his mayhem, trap Marion and Henry in the furnace room, though it's unclear if Marion can actually see them since she doesn't believe in the Winchester curse. So I'm pretty certain that she was scared because she kept saying, I'm not afraid, but I don't think she saw that they were like actually about to choke her out.
Yeah. She's trying to fake it till she makes it.
Pretty
She's like, I'm not
much.
afraid. I'm not afraid. But she's like,
Right.
so yeah.
So, in order to defeat Ben, Price must finally accept both the truth of the supernatural and the truth of his past. He uses the bullet that once killed him to confront Ben's spirit, offering him a release from his own grief and rage. And this act not only allows Ben to rest in peace, but it also frees his brothers so they can all reunite once again.
Precious.
With threat neutralized, Sarah commands all the other spirits released in Ben's rampage to return to their rooms, and they do. They go right back to their rooms and they shut their doors like good little spirits.
Go to your room. Yeah,
Right? Um,
no.
but her work is far from done. The house remains under constant construction. More spirits still seek peace, and more rooms must be made. And the film ends with Price filing his report declaring Sarah Winchester to be of sound mind. He leaves the mansion forever changed, while Sarah remains tirelessly building, grieving, and guiding lost souls to rest. And that is our Winchester movie. Woo-hoo.
Hooray.
So there are some themes for this movie So Winchester weaves together guilt, grief, and spiritual unrest. And at its core, this film isn't just about ghosts, it's about responsibility. Sarah doesn't see the spirits as monsters, but as people whose lives were unjustly taken, and she feels in part responsible for their deaths. It's a rare horror film that presents the supernatural not just as something to fear, but also as something that you should listen to.
Mm,
And
hmm.
the house itself is a character. Like I said, it has creaking floors and twisting hallways. And that sort of reflects the mental and emotional labyrinth that Sarah is navigating daily. The mood is mournful and mysterious, with a pace that favors atmospheres over jump scares. The ghosts are eerie, but it's kind of the pain behind them that's the true horror.
Mm,
But let's be clear about those jump scares. The jump scares are extremely effective, every single one, because there's music behind it that gives that sharp, like, it's
yeah.
sharper than that, but and everything is so fast. It's very well done. Their
Yeah.
jump scares in this movie are very well done. So, with that said, Megan,
Yeah.
what do you think about this movie?
I actually think so. I feel like this came out, and I'm you probably have these details. I feel like this was a small movie. Like I feel like it didn't get a lot of recognition among just even just regular people watching it, not like the critics.
Right.
And for that, I feel like it's underrated because it is well put together. The jump scares are effective. Like you're saying, the music is good. It's spooky. It's based on real life, like events, like historical fiction, essentially. And also I go through periods of like obsessively looking into things like all the Warrens I've looked into, Winchester Mystery House, like Civil War ghosts, like just all kind of weird shit, right?
All fun stuff.
All fun, regular things. It's just
Yeah.
fun. Um, I've seen so many pictures of the inside of the Winchester Mystery House, and I can say they did such a fantastic job of recreating what it actually looks like inside. Like that one staircase they kept showing, that weird
Mm,
one that was like a ramp, but also steps that was like twisty.
yeah.
That's something they show all the time. Like if you look at their social media or like you just look up about the place, they really did a great job. With that, I thought the acting was good. I thought it was creepy. I'm happy. I'm happy with it. I'm happy. And it's spooky. And it got me, screeching a few times. So, and then laughing at my dumbness. But I don't know. I think it's good. Like, I love the earthquake bit, the way they incorporated that, because they very easily could have just not
Yeah, left it out.
had that be a part of it. And the way they incorporated, like, Ben in the background and, like, Mom. Um, and also, I kind of thought it was comical how wildly messed up the doctor was. Like how they spent,
Yeah.
I know we didn't get into like the detail of it. It's not necessary at all, but like he was so into just being doped up. And they really made a point of like showing you that before he got to the mansion or anything. And I was just like, this guy really going through it. When he opened the door, he answered a door, the a telegram or whatever. There were like 3 to 5 ladies of the night in there with him.
Yeah.
And they were all
Yeah.
like, bye.
Wait, they
Like
were like, bye,
them
see
on
you
the
next
cheek.
week.
It was
It's
funny.
it's like, sir, you really enjoy your ladies and your substances
Yeah,
quite a bit.
no. So I mean, I thought it was solid. I do think it's underrated in general though, because it's like even when I watched it, and I don't know why this was, but like I didn't remember anything about it. Like it got erased from my memory. But when I was watching it, stuff came back to me. Um, but yeah, I don't know why that is. I think it deserved more than it got. I'll say. That's what I'll
Okay.
say. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I doesn't even feel like this movie came out in 2018,
It doesn't.
because I feel like it came out longer than that. It's like
Hmm.
way longer ago, because this is less than a decade old and it feels like I've seen it over a decade ago.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like this movie is also underrated. I think that this is a really good horror movie if you want to watch something that's just solid with a really good background, especially for historical horror. I don't get too much into period pieces, especially when it comes to horror, but I did enjoy this. Um, and I think that again, Helen Mirren did an amazing job. Um, and why am I drawing a blank on dude's name? Hold on, go back.
I just
Jason
looked,
Clark.
yeah, I was just looking him up before because I was like, I feel like I
I've
haven't
seen
really,
him.
I feel
Yeah,
like I've seen him, but also I feel like I really haven't seen him in anything. So I want to know what else he was in.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I was just looking him up, but Jason Clark is right.
Yeah,
Yes.
Jason Clark, I think he did a good job as a doctor. Because he
Yeah.
did give you a range of emotions going from like I'm really in grief and using drugs as a crutch to I'm not a believer to okay, I'm a believer and let's do this. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I really like that. And like I said, the use of jump scares was effective. It wasn't over the top. They weren't hokey. Like, sometimes you'll get like a Jason Blum movie, Blumhouse original and the jump scares will be stupid or hokey or something. You know what I'm saying?
Or
Um,
A24, it's always like a naked old person in the corner.
listen, A24 loves their naked people. They love their naked
They love
old
them,
people.
but they love
Oh
for
my
it to be like
God.
a surprise. Like all of a sudden it's like, what's that in the corner? It's just a naked old person. It's
Right.
like, oh my
And
gosh.
it's like they're paying naked old women to show their yitties, like just everything out, bushes and all. And I'm just like, my God, A24.
Yeah, no, they love that. They love
Audience
it.
is 24 and up because yeah, it's
Yeah.
rated R over there.
Yeah.
NC-17 for sure. But yeah, so I mean the jump scares and everything was really effective. I think the music in the background, though you don't notice it when you're actually watching the movie, there is some music playing throughout. And it's also very effective because it's subtle, but when you need to hear it because of the jump scares, it
Yeah,
comes right in and goes right back out. So I really appreciate that. And again, as far as it being historically accurate, I love that they did take liberties, of course, because it's a
of
movie,
course.
but they were very historically accurate as far as like Megan said with the earthquake and also with the design of the house. Um, so yeah, I honestly think that it's something that is underrated, and I feel like it should have gotten more praise, but
Yeah.
I think you'll be surprised by the critical review when I get to it. So
I feel like I always feel like the critical reviews are like the opposite of what we say. So
a lot of times, yeah.
I don't know. So we'll see.
All
We'll
right.
see. We'll find out if we have to egg Ebert's house or not, or whatever. It's Ebert, right? He's the one
Ebert,
that's
he's
okay.
the one that usually says something, but he didn't say anything about this time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
so I'll get into the fun facts of this movie. The budget was 3.5 million, but this had a worldwide box office gross of 44 million,
Oh,
making it a financial success. However, the reviews were not good for this movie. So, Rotten Tomatoes, this film holds a 12% critic score based on 129 reviews.
well.
And the consensus of people were saying, like a grand staircase within the famous mansion that inspired it, Winchester appears poised to get a rise out of audiences, but ultimately leads nowhere. And the audience score stands at 32% based on 2,500 ratings. Metacritic is similar with a Metacritic score of 28 out of 100, indicating generally unfavorable reviews, and a user score of 4.4 out of 10, reflecting mixed or average user reviews. And the user reviews are very mixed, with a lot of people expressing disappointment over the film's lack of genuine scares and its reliance on what they called cliches. I don't know what they consider cliches, but I don't feel like this movie had a cliche trope to it, to
Can
be
I just
honest.
can I just say something right now?
Yeah,
If we're do okay. I'm like trying to like
composing yourself for this one.
if we are doing a movie about ghosts in a haunted mansion, and you were like, I think it's cliche, don't watch a movie about ghosts in a haunted mother effing mansion. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah,
literally what the movie is about. So if you find that to be cliche, it's not for you. It's not a cliche. It's what the movie is about. The trailer
right,
shows you what the movie is about. So if you don't like that, just don't effing watch it. Like
right.
that's still me tempering like how I really wanted to, to say.
Look, and
But it
even
like
if you go on Amazon, it tells you in Spanish what the movie is about.
we were so confused about that. We were like, is this the right one? Why is it in
It's
Espanol?
right,
Um, no, but seriously, why are you going to take and so many paranormal movies, right? You could take any kind of like sub genre of horror, like if it's like straight up paranormal, if it's possession, if it's like a
Religious
house, if it's a
horror,
haunt,
body horror.
any of
Yeah.
that, they all follow somewhat of the same storylines to a
Yeah.
point. So it really gets on my nerves deeply when people are like, I think it's cliche. It's literally what we signed up for. It's what it is. And if you think you can make a better movie, then make one. If you think you can make an out of the box movie, then I want to see that movie, unless you're Race, Waterfield, Wakefield, whatever your name
Reese.
is. Then I don't ever want to see your movies ever again. But new person, make a better movie. Make a movie that's totally never been done before for horror, that doesn't follow any of the cliches and whatever, and then we'll talk about it. That's where I'll leave that. That's the last thing I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like I like religious horror movies. And if you look at religious horror movies, they follow a clear-cut thing. There's a priest, there's somebody getting possessed, and there's somebody who's trying to stop the possession. That's typically what happens, okay?
That's how it
There might
goes.
be a demon, there's some casting somebody out, there's some holy water, there's a Bible, okay? In almost every single religious movie, it doesn't matter
Hmm.
what you look at. They're all that like that. If you look at movies that are slasher horrors, what do you think's going to happen? Somebody's going to be in the house. Somebody's going to break in the house. They're going to chase them. Instead of running outside, they're going to run up the stairs. They hide in a place that's stupid, and the slasher gets them. You know what I'm saying? Like,
There's
they're
like a
all the same.
formula. They're all the same. So it's like it just like almost like when you said the first word you said, like such and such a staircase in their house that leads to nowhere. I want to know how that's true when this movie had a clear direction and resolution. How can you
Yeah.
tell me it led nowhere? There, it resolved. Was it like your dream scenario? Like maybe not, but again, then like you write it. You write it then.
You know what though? I think I can understand that. I think where they're saying that it went nowhere is because the movie is supposed to be about Winchester.
Right.
And at the end of this movie, it's not really that's not resolved because she's still doing the same things. But the ending of this story revolves around Price and
Hmm.
his ending. So he is now has resolution. He's now fixed from his grief. He's now giving Sarah her bill of good health and stuff. So that does resolve. But if you're looking for
Yeah.
the Winchester part to resolve, clearly it didn't resolve. She was alive. That was 1906. She was alive until 1922. So she had some years to go before
Yeah.
she died.
And I guess with that point being said, it's like sometimes, just like in life, things don't get a clear resolution,
Right.
you know? And it's like if she was still alive, how do you want it like she, especially if it's like based on true events to a point, because it does say that at the beginning, it's based on true
Hmm.
events, right? If she's still alive and she's continuing to build the house, how would you have preferred them to write it up? They say, okay,
Right.
so they got rid of this one ghost, and then all the other ghosts in the house cross over to the other side with the help of Tangina from Poltergeist, who went back in time in her time machine. And then Sarah Winchester lived a very happy life in her mansion, and they ceased building the other rooms and whatever, because then it's no longer based on true events almost at all.
Right.
So what is the alternative? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes people just want to find something wrong with anything.
Yeah.
No.
And I mean, maybe if we take a look, I don't know what other movies were came out in 2018. Maybe that's something to look at. Um, so
Let's
let's
go to the
see.
internet.
Yeah. Horror movies of 2018.
2018 horror movies. We have Possum. That looks like there's spider legs coming out of it. So
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense. Hereditary.
Hmm.
Insidious, The Last Key.
Oh, Summer of '84. Okay.
Bird Box. I never saw that.
Hellfest. I saw Bird Box.
The Possession of Hannah Grace. The Nun. The
Slender
Meg,
Man.
based on my life. Just kidding.
Okay.
Um, The Predator.
Strangers Pray at Night. Good God.
Oh my God, this one looks like a Winnie the Pooh-esque one. Rotten Tail. And there's like a person that looks like a it's like a person with like a weird rabbit head.
Hmm.
Stupid. No.
That's funny.
Down in Dark Hall, Hellfest, you said that. Killer Unicorn. Why do we keep doing this?
Lord.
Um,
So.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Suspiria.
looking at these movies that came out, which it's wild as hell because I see Winchester here next to The Nun. It's crazy wild that this movie came out the same year as The Nun because I saw The Nun.
Right.
I definitely saw The Nun. In fact, I saw quite a few of these movies that came out this year. Um, Leprechaun, Leprechaun Returns came out. Oh God. Also
I missed
Halloween
that
came out,
completely.
right?
Yeah.
Hellraiser Judgment. I mean, a lot of stuff came out, but I feel like this movie was overshadowed, and this might be why. Because when you had heavy hitters that year. Like the
Yeah.
Nun is a part of the Conjuring universe, okay? So that already was they were bigging that up because what is it? I want to call him Bagul. That's not his name. That's Insidious or something. Whatever that
You
demon's
know,
name is,
Bagul. Like
right?
what?
Whatever the demon's name is. We're not supposed to be saying demons' names in the house, but
Mm.
anyway, that guy, he was bigged up. So of course people want to see him in the Nun. And then you have Insidious, The Last Key, that came out. People were very into that. Of course, Halloween came out.
Halloween was huge.
Right. People really, really were into Halloween. Then you have stuff like what'd you say? And but it was Cam came out, not Possum, Hereditary.
Hereditary was really
Hereditary,
big. Yeah.
right. Summer of '84, that was also pretty big too. I mean, there's a lot of movies here.
Did you see
Suspiria.
Goosebumps? Goosebumps came out. I missed that one, but Goosebumps came
I
out,
missed that
everyone.
too.
Yeah.
But like Suspiria came out, you have Hellraiser, so this movie got overlooked by a lot of stuff. I
I feel
mean,
like it fell in the mid-range because even looking through a lot of these, there's a lot of ones that I didn't even hear about
yeah, oh my
from
God,
from this big list. Oh, the
the
Cloverfield one.
the Cloverfield paradox came out with it. But
Yeah, there's a
yeah,
lot of these I never heard of.
Hellfest had Tony Terry, Lord, Tony Todd,
Oh, Tony Todd.
Tony Todd. Um, yeah, so I feel like with all of
Hell's Kitty.
these,
Missed that one.
oh God, with all these other movies that came out this year, I think that wait, was this the house that Jack built? Um, I I think I think that it was just overshadowed. And I mean, not for nothing, the cover of Winchester next to the nun looks dope. Like because you have the nun has the half white and half black, and then you have Helen Mirren in all black. It just looks so good to me.
Yeah.
But like I just think it was overshadowed. And I think that when people compare it to these other movies,
Mm.
unfortunately, it's going to fall short. You know, like if you're looking at haunting movies where you get Insidious or The Nun, you know, those
Yeah.
movies have a different type of haunting going on and it's a stronger type of haunting. Like Winchester
Mm.
doesn't go for gory scares or,
Mm.
you know, it's nothing that's like gross. So,
It's more of a classic haunting, in my
yeah.
opinion. But that's so cliche. Like that's sorry, that's getting on my nerves now. Um, but it's no killer unicorn. Like let's be honest. Like it's
Right,
not.
right. It's no dinosaur hotel,
It's no that nothing can be Dinosaur Hotel. Like
which
nothing.
I may or may not have seen.
Mm.
So,
Which I may or may not have not seen and will never see as long as I live because I've made a vow to not give that man any clicks or likes or anything. And I will only give him my rage only.
yeah,
Um, but
but yeah,
yeah,
I mean
no.
that's kind of how I feel about the movie.
Yeah.
I think it was good, but um, so yeah, but the thing about it though, despite the fact that this movie wasn't like beloved by people as far as it being a critical success, it has a cult following among people who like ghost stories with historical roots. So this is a historical horror movie that people will like. And those are
Yeah.
the people that this is attracting. So it's not the most terrifying film out there, but it lingers with a certain type of unease. And that's okay.
It's solid, I think.
Yeah.
Um, it's definitely spooky. Do I think I will watch it again? No. I don't know that I'll watch it again because this is my second time watching it and it's not like it's not a drag to get through. It's not like hard to watch. It's nothing like that, but it's like, is it my
Once you see it,
favorite? Like no, like I know the story now. Maybe this time I'll actually remember it. Um,
right.
but no, because like for me, while this movie is interesting, like I said, I've gone down the Winchester rabbit hole many times. before this movie existed. So that is the main event to me. Like I don't feel the need to keep watching this movie. I would rather read more about the actual house and lore and such. Um,
Yeah.
but still solid.
Yeah.
Still solid.
Well, let me give you a few other facts for this movie.
Woo.
There were production delays and location switch ups because Winchester was originally supposed to be filmed in that San Jose mansion
Mm-mm.
in 2016 at the actual house, but delays pushed production back and the shoot ended up happening in Australia in 2017. And the reason why is because as iconic as that house is, it's just too cramped and it's oddly shaped and it's too unpredictable to put major production equipment inside. So they just could not film in that house. So they got a lot of exterior shots on location. So most of the shots that you see of the outside of the house are real and
So
whatnot.
cool.
But all the interiors were built on sound stages in Australia because the Spierig brothers are German, but they're German brothers, but they are Australian filmmakers. So, um,
Interesting.
right, I was like, oh, that's cool. So yeah, so that's why they did it in Australia. Helen Mirren did have a moment during filming where she said she felt something strange on set, like a presence was watching her during certain scenes. And she
Ew.
was not the only person that felt it because crew members also reported cold spots and unexplained sounds, especially when they were on the in the mansion set. Um, so yeah, and in real life, if you didn't know, Sarah Winchester was a very fascinating woman. She was an innovator. She had one of the first indoor showers and telephones in her area. She also developed early irrigation systems and modern farming techniques. And she wasn't just rich, she was smart and she was very, very independent. So just because she was building a lot of things in her house and she thought spirits were haunting her, she still had her wits about her. She's pretty
Well,
dope, I
who
guess.
among us has not thought they had spirits haunting them, right? Does that
Right?
make us nuts? Maybe, but also maybe not.
Right.
Well, there's that.
And my last fact is the filmmakers went old school with this movie. They used practical effects wherever possible, relying on real sets, real lighting, in-camera tricks to sell all the hauntings. And this does give the movie a more grounded, old school, gory, I'm not gory, old school ghost story vibe.
Yeah.
Even when the pacing does drag just a little bit. And that's
Hmm.
probably what people did not like because when we get to 2018, you're used to seeing CGI stuff. You're used to seeing like crazy stuff coming up in your face, and when you see practical effects you're like, oh, this seems crazy, this seems old, so maybe that was also the appeal or the
I
lack
feel
of
like that
appeal.
just makes me want to be like a crazy old person and be like, you guys are spoiled. You're spoiled brats with this CGI. Like, I just feel like I'm 100 years old and crabby.
Yes,
Um,
and I had to I had to redeem myself. The name of the damn demon in the nun is Valak. Ugh.
oh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. That's all I was gonna say. Just saying crabby things about people being spoiled by CGI because
Yeah,
practical effects are infinitely better, and that is a hill that I'm prepared to die on.
I mean, I think they're pretty good too. I'm not mad
Yeah,
at practical effects. I think that shows some creativity, especially with people who are the makeup artists or the set designers who are, or even the camera people who are doing these tricks or setting up the makeup or setting up the whatever. It
I
shows some
think.
creativity.
Yeah, and I like a little CGI if it's enhancing something. I don't like when it relies heavily on CGI, but like if we're doing like little things here and there, fine, you know. But not, it
Yeah.
shouldn't. If it's all CGI, then it's like meh, you know.
I've seen a movie recently that I'm not going to say what it is, but you can stay tuned to the next episode to probably find out what it is. But it relied really heavily on CGI. A lot. It was bad. It was
And
so much
I was gonna
CGI,
say, and how did that work out for them?
right?
Mm,
But yeah, so I mean, no, I will say this just before we go give our ratings. Um, I do feel like CGI is still very important. Like I said, I
yeah,
think it's creative for people to do stuff practically, but CGI also takes a lot of skill. So I just want to make sure that I make that clear. Like I'm not shitting all over people who do CGI. I think
no.
I some of my favorite movies are just CGI based, but they're not horror movies. Those are like, other movies that have dinosaurs. Not Dinosaur Hotel. But, but like, Jurassic Park or even like Alien franchises or Predator franchises or things like that, I think they have some practical, but they have a lot of CGI, and so what was
It's
that movie?
important. It's still
Avatar or
important.
whatever?
Avatar, obviously,
Yeah,
yes, of
yeah.
course. That was
So
very well done. It
yeah,
depends on like how much of it's used and how it's used, right? So it's
exactly.
like I don't think there should be a blanket statement in any direction because there's some practical effects that are really bad. For example, Robert Englund, Nightmare on Elm Street, his really long arms. You can
Yeah,
see the strings or the wires. For me, I love the camp that I'm like, that looks so silly. You're a silly goose,
yeah.
right? But it looks bad.
There's isn't there one where his tongue is like out too?
Of the phone. It comes out of the
Yeah,
phone.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like really weird looking. So yeah, I mean, but we go back, that's what, 80s.
That's the
So
80s. Yeah, yeah.
again, camp was big back then.
I know.
So,
I know it.
but I mean, that is what it is. So with that said, how many bloody axes are you going to give this movie?
This is one I don't have to think that hard about, honestly. I'm gonna give this an 8. I think it's solid. I think it's mostly well done. I think there are little things about it that are like maybe like a little wacky or a little draggy in places, but really it's solid. It's underrated in my opinion. Um, so 8. I kind of said everything else already. What about you?
Yeah, this was when I was kind of thinking about while I was watching it, and I was thinking about it throughout the day, and it feels pretty easy to give this like a 7
Hmm?
for me. Just because it is really well done. I think that it can be a little slow in places, but it doesn't drag. And I think that the storyline is solid. Um, I think that some of the parts where Price doesn't believe that there's a haunting going on gets overdone because it's like, sir, you've seen so many ghosts at this
Right.
point. You've been scared. Like you're jumping at stuff. Why would you think it's just the drugs? So, that kind of like was annoying to me to a certain extent because I thought it was not realistic for him to be so
Right. Like
skeptical.
just get over yourself already.
Right. So, I mean, there was that, but other than that, I mean, it was shot beautifully. Helen Mirren did an amazing job in that role. Um, the set looked beautiful. John, who was the right hand man that y'all don't know who I'm talking about, but it's okay. John had a handlebar mustache that was the best handlebar mustache I've seen in a long time, baby. I was
I
like,
love that. Yeah.
yeah, John was my man. And he had the best voice. He's like, yes, Miss Sarah, whatever he said. So, but
Love it.
yeah, I'm so mad when he got killed. Ugh. Anyway.
Tragic,
Yeah,
tragic.
so I mean, it's a solid 7 for me. I think it's a good movie overall. I don't see what the problem was with it, but again, it might have just been a
Yeah,
victim of the year that it came out because it came up against so many heavy hitting movies, so many franchise movies that were already established that when you bring out a movie that's out of the box, like this was different, it had not been done. When you do that, it challenges the norm of the time, and so people aren't really as accepting or as
right,
receptive of that change. So they'd rather go see a movie that's based off of another universe, like the Nun is based off The Conjuring, or they'd rather go see Insidious, the fourth, 15th version of it,
Insidious 57.
right?
Yeah,
So yeah, but that's all I got. So
solid. All
yeah,
right. So 7 and 8. That's not too shabby, not too shabby.
not at all, not at
I
all.
like it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any other thoughts or feelings or comments?
No, no, no. We
I
can
think we said
probably
it all. I think we could take it home. Yeah.
yeah, we can wrap it on up. So now that we've experienced the mysterious Winchester house, was Sarah Winchester crazy, or was she the only one brave enough to take the responsibility for the weight of all that death? Winchester plays it safe in some ways, but the heart of this film lies in its exploration of sorrow, guilt, and spiritual redemption, whether you believe in paranormal or not. It is a slow burn to a certain extent, but if you like your hard tea steeped in sorrow, wrapped in whispers, and brimming with real history, this one just might find a place in your haunted heart.
Hmm.
So, what do you think? Did Sarah's obsession with the house come from grief, or was there something more to it? And do you believe the spirits she was trying to trap were real, or just a manifestation of her trauma? Tell us down below. And also, would you take a tour of the Winchester house? Because we probably would. So, would you?
I definitely would. Let us know if you would take a tour with us of the
Hey.
Winchester Mystery House. Whether or not you are invited remains to be seen.
Exactly. But
Just saying.
yes, please let us know. Yes, let us know in the comments below if the spirits don't answer for you first. So, if you like your spooky with a little spice, please subscribe to us here on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the Horror Ghouls. We're also lurking on your favorite podcast platform, so you'll never scream alone. So,
Never.
until next time, stay spooky, watch your step, and remember, some doors will offer a way out, but others are the entrance to something far worse.
It's true.
Yeah.
See you guys next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.